There we go. Hi, Nolene. Thanks for having me. Let me quickly start my presentation. Okay, great. So just move all of the screens around, then I can see everything. Okay, so my name is Zia Reddy, and I thought I would quickly just share a bit about myself, just to kind of give you a better idea of who I am and what it is that I do. So I grew up in a sales and marketing environment. My parents started their own business when I was 4. The business is still going today. And ever since I can remember, I've been involved in business, involved in sales, and involved in marketing. I built my first website at the age of 16, so I've always been more of a digital enthusiast. And when it came time to study, I opted for a BCom in marketing because it was the best of both worlds, business and marketing. And fast forward about 13 years or so later, and I now also have an honors in business management. And I've worked with companies such as Toyota, Clover, Ascendus Health, and Standard Bank, developing and really honing my skills in marketing with an emphasis in digital marketing. And so when South Africa went into lockdown last year, quite a few of my friends and my acquaintances reached out just to ask about getting started in the digital space because they had to start a side hustle to supplement their income, or they had to move their operations into the purely digital space. And as a result, I actually started my blog called ziareddy.com as a way to equip small businesses with the skills and knowledge necessary to successfully navigate the world of marketing. And you're welcome to go and have a look at the blog, and please reach out if there is anything that I can help with, or if you do have any specific questions that you would like to ask. So as Nolene said, today I will be talking to you about how to position your brand in a noisy market. But before we continue, I want to encourage you to please drop a comment in the chat section if you hear any jargon or any concepts that you're not familiar with or would like some more information on. So in this session, we are going to have a look at what does it mean to position your brand in a noisy market, the customer problem statement, what it is and why it's so important, how to actually write a customer problem statement, how to translate your customer problem statement into a marketing message, and 5 small things you can do to set your marketing message apart. So whether you're launching a new brand, a new product or a new service, or you're considering repositioning your brand with new marketing messaging, the space that your business operates in today is just by nature noisy. And you may think that your product is new or your service is unique, but even if you are the only person operating in your market, the channels that you are using are quite busy. And it requires the user, your target market, to wade through an immense amount of marketing messages to get to the information that they are actually looking for. So whether you are the only brand offering your specific service, or if you are trying to enter an already saturated market, you're competing for your audience's attention on every single channel that you decide to have a presence on. Now, you may think in order to actually break through all the noise and for your brand to stand out from the crowd, you need to have a catchy and unique marketing message that can rival even the best of Nando's, but it's actually a lot easier than that. All you need to do is to say the right thing to the right audience. And herein lies the key to positioning your brand in a noisy market. But in order for you to achieve this, you need to know 2 things. You need to know who your target market is and what your target market wants from you. And this is where your customer problem statement comes in. So in order for you to position your brand in a noisy market, to claim your portion of the customers in your audience, you need to create a marketing message that speaks to your target market's wants and needs. And how do we do this? We start by writing our customer problem statement for each segment of our audience and for each problem that we solve. So it's easy when compiling your marketing message to fall into the trap of constantly explaining to customers why your brand is awesome, why you are the best. And as important as it is to celebrate your company achievements and to make your accolades known, being too focused on what makes you awesome doesn't do much for your goals, for the goals that you have to actually break through the noise. So there is a time and a place for that kind of messaging though, But this is usually only applicable to that part of your target market that you already have a relationship with. This is why it's so incredibly important to understand your customer and the different relationship stages that are possible with your brand. Effectively, the customer life cycle that the customer goes through when engaging with your brand. So breaking down the different possible relationship stages unfortunately falls beyond the scope of the session. For this session, we are going to be focusing on that part of your audience who have not been introduced to your brand yet. So we're also assuming three other things when we're talking about writing your customer problem statement. We're assuming that you already have your branding sorted, your logo, your brand name, your colors, etc. You already have your vision and your mission statement written, and that you have already established who your target market is and what your ideal customer looks like. So now let's have a look at what your customer problem statement is. So when setting your customer problem statement, you're essentially writing down what their pain points are. What is the problem that your business as a brand are trying to solve in offering your product and your service? So when compiling your customer problem statement, the focus should be on how your customer is feeling and what is making them feel that way. So note that not once throughout this entire process are you supposed to speak about your brand or your product. You're simply explaining what problem the customer experiences and why the problem is present and how that problem makes them feel. So the reason why we're focusing on a customer problem statement when compiling our marketing messaging to position our brands in a noisy market comes back to the section of the audience that we're talking to. Remember, we said that when positioning your brand, it means that you're introducing something new to the market. So this is true for brands who have been active in an industry, but who are now repositioning themselves to either appeal to a different market or to a market that has changed significantly enough for them to warrant going through the process. So when we are introducing something new, we need to essentially start at the beginning of the customer life cycle, the reach stage of the relationship that we have. And remember, when your customer is at the reach stage, they essentially don't care about your brand. They don't care about who you are. All they want to know is how you can solve the problem that they have. How can you make their lives easier? And when you have your customer problem statement written, when you understand what the problem is that you're solving, then you can write the necessary marketing messaging that tells the customer what they want to know. And it's this kind of messaging that breaks through the noise and allows you to position your brand in the market. And now that we know what a customer problem statement is and why it's so important to create a customer problem statement, let's have a look at how we go about actually writing one. So before you start, there are three things that you need to remember. First, do not mention your brand, service, or your product. Your customer problem statement should focus on the problem and not the solution. Think about how your problem makes your customer feel at that moment. This approach lays the foundation for marketing messaging that builds empathy and that builds trust. And it's okay to have more than one customer problem statement. So this is specifically applicable to businesses that offer more than one product or service. And you should ideally have one customer problem statement per customer and per problem that you solve. So let's have a look at an easy formula or format that you can use to write your customer problem statement. You start, I am trying, but, because, which makes me feel. So when you have a look at these 5 elements, you can see that when writing a customer problem statement, you're writing it as though you are the customer. And this is why knowing your target audience and having a good grasp of who your ideal customer is so incredibly important if you want to write marketing message that will break through the noise. But let me better explain this with an example, an actual practical example. So let's pretend that we are the owners of a new nail salon that offers nanny services while you have your nails done, so that your kids can be entertained and looked after and they can be safe while you spoil yourself with a new set of nails. This is actually something that I'm dealing with at the moment. So when we look at our unique selling point, our USP, it's clear to see that our main target market is made up of parents with young children. So let's create a customer problem statement with the information that we have at hand. So we first start with, I am a parent. I am trying to have my nails done, but I can't find the time because I have no one to look after my kids, which makes me feel frustrated. So do you see how we are not talking about the brand or the product or the business or what makes us special in any way, shape, or form? We are placing the customer at the center of our marketing messaging, because the customer in the reach stage of the customer life cycle does not care about what makes us special. They care about how we are going to solve their problem. And the customer problem statement also emphasizes what problem your marketing message should speak to in order to get your customers' attention. And remember, our salon also doesn't just cater for parents. Yes, nanny services might be what sets us apart, but we're still going to welcome customers who do not have children to our salon. That is why it's okay to have more than one customer problem statement, because you have more than one customer and because you solve more than one kind of problem. So now that we know what our customer problem statement is and what the feeling is that the customer feels and how we're helping that customer overcome it, it's time to use that information to craft a marketing message that will make the customer stop and pay attention to what we have to say. So there are certain do's and don'ts when it comes to using the different digital channels that are available to businesses, but those are more technical in nature and also differ per the channel that you use. Ideally, what you want to create here is a marketing message that can be changed and adapted according to the different technical requirements of the channels that you have a presence on. So let's quickly have a look at our problem statement again. I'm a parent. I'm trying to have my nails done, but I can't find the time because I have no one to look after my kids, which makes me feel frustrated. So using our unique selling point that caters for our customer, which is our nanny services, knowing what problem it is that we are solving, and now knowing how it makes our customer feel, we can craft a message that speaks directly to their problem and their emotions without boring them with information about what makes us awesome. So for example, what we can say is, enjoy your me time with peace of mind, knowing that your little ones are having fun. So do you see in this message, we're speaking to the customer's frustration and to their worry that they don't have time because they can't find anyone to look after their kids. Now, if you want to have a look at the different frustrations or the different worries that your customer has, you can also speak to, instead of fun, you can speak to that knowing that your little ones are educated, knowing that your little ones are safe. So reading a marketing message like this, coupled with the right imagery and placements, of course, will immediately grab your audience's attention because you're directly speaking to their pain points, to their problems, to something that they need fixing in that moment. And this is what leads me to the last point in this session. So we've covered how to craft a marketing message based on your customer problem statement. But crafting the marketing message is just one of the hurdles that you need to overcome in order to move your customer down the customer life cycle. So ideally, what we want to achieve is to have your audience engage with your message and ultimately become paying customers, essentially coming to the end of the customer life cycle. So here are 5 small things you can do or that you should consider when it comes to crafting your marketing message. And this also involves how you present your message on the different channels. So first, you need to be clear and concise. You only have a few seconds before the viewer decides if it's worth their time to engage with your message. So don't waffle, don't write paragraphs, be clear about your message and say it in as few words as possible. Secondly, you want to write the way that you talk. This might seem obvious, but it's easy to fall into the habit of trying to sound clever. We all tend to be very critical of ourselves and of the content that we create. So we end up being long-winded and writing long-winded and large-worded, highly complex pieces of marketing material that people can't actually relate to. So stick to a conversational style that is in line with your brand voice. Where possible, avoid jargon. And this ties in with point number 2. Remember, we are speaking to customers who are in the reach stage of the customer lifecycle. They don't know you, they don't know your brand, and they don't know your product. They only know that they have a problem and they need someone to help them solve it. So you can tell them in detail with as much jargon as you want, and as much jargon as is necessary, how you're going to solve their problem. But this kind of messaging comes later in this customer lifecycle. And then you need to have one clear call to action. Now, a call to action, or a CTA, is very important when it comes to crafting your marketing message. So it helps your customer to know what to do next, and it encourages them to engage with your brand. But giving your customer too many options is also not a great idea. You should ideally choose one call to action, which is either email us, phone us, click, like, send us a message, book your appointment, etc. And you should choose one channel through which you want to do it. So they can phone you, they can email you, or click on a link. When you give your customer too many options, they tend to not engage with your message. And then the last point is start with your strongest point. And this one ties in with the first point that I said about being clear and concise. You only have seconds, if even, to capture your audience's attention. So start with that part of your message that will make your audience stop and pay attention. And this is also an important point to remember due to the different layout constraints across different digital platforms. So you'll see on Instagram, the layout is different because your writing is at the bottom. On Facebook, your writing is at the top. So naturally, you want to start with that part of your message that will make people stop and click on the read more option. And that is it for me for this session. So we covered what it means to position your brand in a noisy market, what a customer problem statement is, and why it's important for your marketing message. I also showed you how to write a customer problem statement and how to translate your customer problem statement into a marketing message. And then we also covered the 5 small things that you can do to set your marketing message apart. So it's important to remember that when positioning your brand in a noisy market, that you need to speak to the problem that the customer is facing. Because the customer at this point does not know your brand or has a relationship with your brand, they are not interested in what makes you awesome. They are interested in how you are going to solve their problem. So remember, I always like to say that it's not about what makes you awesome, it's about the problem that you solve. And when it comes to writing your customer problem statement, the format is I am trying, but, because, which makes me feel. You can and should have more than one customer problem statement. Ideally, you should have one for each problem that you solve per target market that you cater for. Remember how our salon catered for both parents who have kids and those who don't. And when you translate your customer problem statement to a marketing message, remember to speak to the problem that your customer has and how the problem makes them feel. So I hope that you have found the session informative and practical. And as I said earlier, if there is anything that you would like more information on, or if you have any specific questions, please do not hesitate to get in touch. You can reach me by going to my website, ziareddy.com.